Now, we begin with some breaking news out of Sri Lanka and reports of 6 bomb attacks at churches and hotels. One blast happened at a church in the capital, Colombo. Another is believed to have hit an Easter Sunday service in Negombo. And we're also hearing reports that 2 hotel resorts were also targeted. Well, Al Jazeera's Minelle Fernandez joins us on the phone now from Colombo. Minelle, so what are the latest details you've been hearing about these multiple explosions?
Darren, the information so far is that the scale of these explosions have been quite significant. We're hearing from the National Hospital, the biggest state hospital, that more than 160 casualties have been brought in so far. There are local reports in the media that say more than 25 people have been killed in the explosions. There are still reports of casualties being brought in various modes of transport from these locations into the National Hospital. Now, the local media, there is a lot of traffic online, on social media. There are people that are circulating pictures of the attacks. There are some video clips that are happening. And it is very much early stages in terms of finding out what exactly has happened. But that's what we're hearing so far. Not just the churches, but also a number of 5-star hotels. As many as 3 of the hotels reported to have been targeted by these explosions. Darren?
Minelle, just give us a sense where exactly these hotels and churches are in the capital and where Negombo is in relation to the capital.
In terms of the bulk or the majority of the explosions, Darren, we're talking around the heart of Colombo. It's very much not just the commercial heart, but where you have all or many of the 5-star hotels all sort of dotted around a seafront esplanade, even the St. Anthony's Church, the site of one of the larger explosions we're hearing, bordering basically that coastal belt, all within a radius of a few kilometers. And this is what we're hearing has occurred. Now, the police seems to have cordoned off the area. People, obviously, there were hundreds of people, not just those who had gone to those churches for Easter Sunday services, people in the areas who had also flocked around as soon as these things occurred. We're hearing the police advising all the bystanders, everyone sort of crowding around the areas to be cleared, doing that, cordoning it off, because one of the local media stations has just reported that there may be the possibility of further explosions. There might be more explosive devices within the premises, and they have basically asked people to clear the area and taking steps to make sure that, to minimize casualties. Darren?
And Minelle, at this point, do we have any idea as to who is likely to be behind these attacks?
That's the sort of concerning thing, Darren. I mean, at this stage, it's open-ended in terms of there are no obvious suspects. Sri Lanka in 2019 marks 10 years since the end of a very brutal conflict with the Tamil Tigers. There was a time in this country a few years ago when the moment you heard an explosion, it was the obvious thing. It was a terrorist attack. It was the Tamil Tigers. With such a long time since the end of the war, the kind of decimation of the Tigers, it doesn't seem logical to assume that this is terrorist-related. However, we do not know. Sri Lanka also, Darren, has got a violent past. We had a number of militant insurgencies where there was a lot of violence. The political scenario has not been the nicest thing when you look at political rivalries. So it is very open-ended. People have no idea what to think at this stage.
Yeah, Minelle, I mean, there are some reports that suggest that this isn't the first time that churches have been attacked in Sri Lanka. What more can you tell us about that?
Sri Lanka, in recent years, there has been some targeting of churches. Now, that's been on different scales. You had this backlash of sort of nationalist, extremist kind of targeting some of the conversions in churches. This is not only in Sri Lanka, it's been seen in other parts of the world. But a few years ago, we did have, for example, evangelical churches being attacked. But this just seems to go way beyond that, Darren, because the scale of the explosion The pictures of the St. Anthony's Church, the one in Colombo, where literally the roof is blown out. It's just a massive explosion, as well as we've seen the targeting of all these five-star hotels. So even if that might be within the spectrum of possibilities, it just seems to be far more organized and at a far larger scale than anything we've seen before.
All right, Minelle Fernandez. Minelle, for the time being, thank you very much for that. Let's cross over, if we can, to Ashik Nazardine, joins us now from the capital, Colombo. He's a journalist who's been following this story very closely. Ashik, we were just talking to Minelle Fernandez there, our reporter in Colombo. She says it appears to be a pretty coordinated attack. What are you hearing there?
Hello?
Yes, Ashik, can you hear me at all?
Not really.
OK, what have you been hearing there? What are you hearing and seeing in terms of these attacks? It seems a pretty coordinated thing.
6 explosions are reported in Colombo and Negombo. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Keep going.
So there have been 6 explosions reported in Sri Lanka, 5 of them in Colombo, which is the capital city of Sri Lanka, and then 1 in Negombo, which is close to the Kochchikade International Airport. So 3 in churches and 3 in 5-star hotels. And around over 100 people have been admitted to hospital for treatment. And there have been around 25 casualties reported.
And has there been any response yet from the government, from security officials?
Sorry, I can't hear you properly.
Has there been any response from the government, from security officials?
Police have officially issued a statement regarding the explosions in 2 churches, one in Colombo and one in Negombo. But there have been no official statement regarding explosions in 5-star hotels in Colombo.
And just bring us up to date, Ashik, if you can, about the casualty figures. We were hearing that it was something in the region of about 160.
So far it's reported it's over 25.
That's the number of dead, but in terms of the number of injured, what are you hearing?
That's not the exact number, but up to now it's over 25.
And Ashik, where are they taking, I mean, obviously, if there are 6 different locations, there are quite a number of people who are injured and are casualties here. Where are they taking them?
5 of the locations are in Colombo itself, so all the injured people are being taken to Colombo National Hospital.
Yes, and what about the hotels that reportedly have been attacked as well? Do we know where exactly these hotels are?
There have been casualties in hotels as well.
Sorry, Ashik, could you say that again?
There have been casualties in hotels as well, and I just got reports from the site saying even 3 foreigners have passed away.
Yeah, and can you tell us where these hotels are, which hotels they are?
You want the names?
Yes, please, if we can. Just as much detail as you've been hearing.
One is Cinnamon Grand, Colombo, and then Shangri-La, Colombo, and then Kingsbury, Colombo, all within a 100-meter radius.
OK, all right. Ashik Nazardine, for the time being, we'll leave it there. Let's cross back, if we can, to our reporter in Colombo, Minelle Fernandez. Minelle, we were just talking to Ashik Nazardine there. He's a journalist, and he's been giving us some updates. But just bring us up to date now on what you've been hearing in terms of the latest casualty figures, because the numbers seem to be varying in terms of those injured and those who've been killed.
That's right, Darren. Obviously, very early stages as this kind of crisis unfolds in Colombo, in Sri Lanka. What we do know in terms of reports quoting hospital sources is that where fatalities are concerned, we're hearing that there are over 25 deaths. But in terms of the casualties, we still don't know. One of the reasons for the multiple numbers coming in is because with many of these locations, there are so many that there are still casualties being driven into the main national hospital, which is treating all of these people. So it keeps going up. So you do have breaking news updates on local media, people who are sort of passing on information on social media. So there are differing reports, not conflicting reports, but obviously a range of different numbers. We are hearing one official report from one of the TV stations, again citing hospital sources, which says there are over 180 casualties. We did hear from the person just a short while ago who said 400 casualties. Again, this is citing reports that are unfolding given the scale of these multiple explosions. Darren?
Yeah, and Minelle, so we know that some of the attacks took place in churches, some took place in hotels. This seemed to be very coordinated, as you were saying earlier on, very coordinated in its very nature.
That's right, Darren, which is why, I mean, right now there's literally shockwaves going through the population in this country. We haven't seen anything of this scale or nature for years. And in terms of the way you saw these attacks unfold, it all started occurring mid-morning, right in the middle of Easter Sunday services. That was the first we heard, the two explosions in the churches. Subsequently, the rest of them all followed very closely. Within an hour or an hour and a half, we found these reports breaking that all these multiple locations had explosions, and basically the casualty numbers were building. So it does seem, which is why when we spoke earlier, talking of, who might be behind it, what is likely to be the cause. I mean, Sri Lanka, as we said before, has had a very violent past. This is not something new. We've seen multiple explosions. We've seen huge casualties. We're a country that have seen suicide bomb blasts. We've seen militant insurgencies. We've seen literally the works. But for many, many years, we haven't seen anything of this scale and of this nature, Darren. So that's why people are very concerned at this moment, trying to figure out what exactly is going on in this country. Darren?
And Minelle, we know that Easter Sunday, of course, is one of the major feasts in the Christian calendar. I mean, is there a sense that perhaps these attacks were time to take maximum advantage of the fact that people had gathered in churches?
That definitely, in terms of you look at the choice of the locations, Darren, does kind of point to the fact that the churches were targeted. However, if you look at St. Anthony's Church, while being a very, very revered and sacred Catholic shrine, it is something that has appealed to Sri Lankans across the board. It is something that invokes a lot of piety among people of all different faiths. People for its reputation. There are people from all walks of life, from all different faiths of Colombo that go regularly to the services at St. Anthony's Church. So while it was Easter Sunday, and it does appear that these were two locations that were targeted for the crowd, it could have basically directly targeted on an Easter Sunday. It, like I said, does seem far greater than that, much wider in terms of its reach and scale, Darren.
Minelle, what about the hotels in terms of those that were attacked? Where are they, and do we know which hotels they were?
Yes, the reports basically that we have is they're all five-star hotels, again, within the sort of heart of Colombo, literally a kilometer or a little over that from the St. Anthony's Church. The three hotels, the Shangri-La Hotel, Sri Lanka's most recent five-star hotel, again on the seafront esplanade in Colombo. The other hotel, a hotel called the Kingsbury, again a five-star hotel built in partnership with local companies. And the third one is a hotel called the Cinnamon Grand. Now, people who have passed through Colombo would know these names because these are very much the leading five-star hotels in Colombo. And again, the thinking behind it, obviously, with the targeting of five-star hotels, is to cause maximum impact, not just on physical casualties, but very much on the whole stability of this country. Which is why, people still scrambling and at loss to understand where this is coming from, Darren.
All right, Minelle Fernandez there in the Sri Lankan capital. Minelle, for the time being, thank you for that.